Okay, hello and welcome to our weekly Wednesday night live stream. I am your host, Dana Morningstar, and this is a live stream that I try and do every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are new here, welcome, and if you are returning here, welcome. So let's see what has been going on with everybody. I wasn't here last week. I apologize. I have been struggling with um, a lot of neck and shoulder pain that unfortunately, I think the only solution is to actually go and either go to the chiropractor or go and get a very deep tissue massage. I've been working way too much on my laptop, and that's been the main issue. So, anyways, my neck pain especially has been causing major, I don't know if it's so much headaches, but it's this dull pain that is almost debilitating. I just have to lay in bed and it's no fun. So that's what I've been dealing with. How are you guys doing? How has your week been? Kevin is here, Speculator is here, Elizabeth is here. Welcome, welcome. I have a new studio setup. So this took quite a lot of doing, and a new microphone. So, and I have my standing desk back, which I'm super excited about. Yeah, Changing My Life says, "Hi, Dana, the painting is back." Yes, yes, it is. And I have some candles and my little plant, lots of things. Kamami says, "We will be released from our confinement on May 11th here in France, but we will have to wear a mask, which we don't have yet. Thank you, COVID-19." Oh boy. Yes. It's the world is a changing place every single day, isn't it? Are they mandating that you have to have a certain type of mask, or is it any type of mask that you can find? Here in Michigan, there's a wide mix of people walking around with masks on. So it's been pretty interesting to see how people have taken to it. I don't know if you guys have kind of heard on the news, we've had a lot of protests here. We've had a lot of stuff going on. Uh, in Michigan with the whole COVID thing. So I don't know. We'll see how all that pans out. Kevin says he's been learning how to draw. That's cool. How's that going? AM says, Dana, you're glowing." Oh, well, thank you. Uh, that's due to two reasons. One, the light behind me. I have my old ring light back, which is so much better than an overhead light. But then I also did a face scrub right before. So I noticed when I went live, my face is very red and shiny. So we'll see. Maybe my face didn't like that. So I might be glowing red by by the end of the live stream. So we'll see. Have you guys been watching any new shows lately? How have you been occupying your time? Fatima, hello. She was here yesterday, for those of you who uh, are curious. Oh, very cool. Free from narcissistic abuse says, "I'm teaching myself piano. It's so much fun. I also got an aquarium. It's so relaxing." Very cool. And Jack says, "Things here have been interesting so far. Masks aren't required in Washington state that I know of, or at least not in my remote area. There's a mixture. Some wear masks and some don't." Changing My Life says, "LOL, I think I finally figured out my online business." Do tell, do tell. Does it involve making masks? Because that seems to be in high demand lately. Akwami says, "Oh, any mask. Thank God I can sew, but it kills me that I can't help everybody." Have you seen I need to just post this video on my website. There's a video on YouTube here that, it's on I mean, I'm sure there's lots of them now, but there's one in particular, she did a really great job. It's only like 3 minutes long, and it's how to make a no-sew mask. So, basically taking a bandana it's a piece of fabric and 2 rubber bands, and it's a series of folds that you make, and you just slide it through the rubber bands and put those around your ears and you're good to go. So that is fantastic. AM says, "Oh, I lost a beloved pet. I'm in some pain and processing things. God works in mysterious ways." Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. My mom is potentially going through the same thing. She was thinking she was going to have to put her cat down today. And oh, it's been a really rough day. I know animals. Oh, it's just so heartbreaking because they're just so wonderful. So I am so sorry. My heart goes out to you during this time. Lotus Aura Moon says, "Hi, Dana. Losing a 5-year-old son to the narcissist and his mistress, losing everything I worked so hard for. I am not unfit, but can't compete with his family's power and money. I'm scared he will turn my son against me." Well, I think that's a very valid concern. Uh, when you're trying to co-parent with a person who has a very distorted view on their behavior and their actions, then if they have and then they have no boundaries or very poor boundaries and they're talking about all kinds of stuff that they shouldn't be talking about in front of the child, it's very easy for them at a minimum to stir the pot and kind of worst case scenario to poison the well. And what you're talking about in terms of turning your son against you, that's known as parental alienation. There is a wonderful book I highly encourage anybody to read that's going through um, kind of what you might call a kind of quote unquote high conflict divorce or breakup, and there's a child involved. And the book is called Divorce Poison by Richard Warshaw, I believe. Fantastic, fantastic book. He talks about kind of what to expect, how different strategies that you can use to try to prevent this poisoning, this emotional poisoning from occurring, and different things that extended family can also do. So it's it's really helpful because once this kind of stuff starts up, you are then already behind the ball. So it's not something that you want to wait to see if it's going to happen, but to be as proactive as you possibly can so that you can combat it as you start noticing signs. I'll just kind of give you some of my key points with this is first and foremost to keep a good relationship with your child. So during divorce, during a breakup, during transitional times in a child's life, they don't have the emotional maturity and they don't have the vocabulary and they don't have the authority or power to change. They don't have the ability to express themselves effectively and they don't have the power and control in order to change things. And this can lead to a lot of anger and a lot of outbursts. You can see a lot of kind of regressive behavior where they start. You might have a 7-year-old who's been potty trained all of a sudden starts having accidents again. These kinds of things. It's really common. And so making, I guess, knowing kind of what you're getting what to anticipate, I guess is what I'm saying. Knowing what to anticipate. And then when working with your child to really focus on having a solid relationship that extends beyond just setting boundaries. I think so many parents get so involved, understandably so. They're busy, they're going through a divorce, they're working, they're trying to heal themselves, they've got their own stuff going on in their life, and the the little time that they do interact with their child tends to be playing the part more of the disciplinarian. Oh, you need to take a shower. Oh, it's time to do your homework. Oh, it's time to get to bed. Why aren't you in your pajamas yet? This kind of thing. And if a child's already feeling angry and hurt and resentful, that normal interaction is going to feel more, like badgering, and it can do a lot of harm to the relationship. So this isn't to say that you just let your child do whatever, but it's to say to really double up or triple up on spending quality bonding time with them, so that you're really engaging with them in a way that they find bonding. If they like Legos, spending time playing Legos. If they like bedtime stories, reading bedtime stories. If they like video games, taking an interest in their video games and offering to play with them. Um, doing things one on one, going out for a walk, uh, um, you know, having a going out for lunch. Well, I guess not so much anymore because the virus, but uh, having time that you have lunch or dinner with just them. So they're getting the message that they're important to you, that you're not just there to discipline them. So that can go a long way in really creating and keeping that bond established. It becomes a lot more challenging when the child starts shutting down communication. So if you can kind of again, like kind of nip this stuff in the bud before it grows too big, then it's gonna just be significantly easier than trying to undo damage. So, okay, Fatima, and so yesterday you were really struggling. How are you doing today? Jess says, "Is it just me or do I feel so many people are narcissists?" I think, mm, oh, it's so tough, right? It depends. Are we talking about the kind of DSM clinical definition of a narcissist, or are we talking more of problematic degrees of narcissism? If we're talking problematic degrees of narcissism, I agree with you completely. And frankly, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'd probably agree with you, even if we're talking about DSM criteria. There's, it's amazing how much just unbridled selfishness and lack of empathy and lack of remorse and awful behavior is going on out there, and there's no guilt or shame or embarrassment or sincere apologies or any of that. So yeah, I do think we're at an interesting and potentially scary time in history because of this. But even that, even as all that aside, because I know terminology tends to get people tripped up, and I always end up getting emails from people that want to argue with like my use of terminology and this, that, and the other. So I think the bigger takeaway here is it's when we're talking about seeing a lot of narcissism out and about, it's a lot of very dysfunctional behavior, a lot of selfishness, a lot of uh, just, using, abusing, exploiting, lack of empathy. Oh, it's really gross. And what I find fascinating is there's so many different channels on YouTube especially where it's people that just have the most vapid behavior, just one dimension. There's just no substance to them whatsoever. And what I find interesting about that is that they're oftentimes applauded for being themselves. And I always think that's interesting because I don't see that as them being themselves. I see that as a mask that protects them from actually being themselves. So I don't know. That's just a side note. Okay, let's see here. Darlene says, "Yes, I have the same problem. I see narcissism everywhere." Yeah, and like kind of like I was saying, I like to really view it as narcissism as it's a facet of dysfunctional behavior, and everybody has some degree of dysfunctional behavior, and dysfunctional behavior is rampant out there. So I know it can make people feel um, kind of paranoid or hypervigilant because, like, man, I'm seeing a lot of problematic behavior out there. But the reality is, it is out there. It's just that your eyes tend to be more open to it for the first time ever. Whereas a lot of us, before we experienced whatever relationship brought us to this point, we tended to gloss over this. We gave people the benefit of the doubt. We assumed the best. You know, we just glossed over it. And so now that we've really been hurt by it, we're like, wow, no, that's a big problem. That um, I don't know, that mother who was absolutely just berating her child. Before I used to think, well, maybe what did that child do? Or, um, man, she's really in a bad mood. And then you kind of gloss over it and drive on. And now it's sort of like, wow, no, that's not okay. Like, that's abusive. And you really start seeing it more for what it is. Or you see, if you're out there dating and somebody's giving you the silent treatment, or somebody's ghosting you, or somebody's uh yeah, just kind of being squirrely, or they're pushing your boundaries, or they're fighting you about your boundaries, these kinds of things. Before, we might have thought, oh, well, this is weird, or this is a communication issue. I just need to let them know that that's not okay with me. Whereas now we see that kind of behavior more for what it is, and we're more inclined uh, to be okay with walking away from it. If we can address it and it can be resolved, great. But if it can't, or it keeps happening, then we've been down that road before. Oh, I love that. Changing my life says it's okay. So, business idea was, it's still in the making, but I want to coach survivors on how to decorate their homes after they leave in a way that truly reflects who they are and in a way that creates joy. I couldn't have figured this out without my online business training. Oh, I love that so much. Will you email me? We should talk. We should talk. Dana at thriveafterabuse.com. And if you can put in the subject line, changing my life. Okay, let's see. Ooh, that's a great question. Oh, there's so many great comments. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, where to start? Speculator says, yeah, how many of those, that's interesting moments or incidents do you witness before you call it a red or an orange flag, as opposed to behavior that I'm just not familiar with? I think what's significant in that is we don't need to figure out their intention. Like, well, what is this? Is this part of their culture? Is this behavior that I'm just not familiar with? Or is this concerning? It's more of us needing to figure out where we stand with that. How do you feel about that? Is this making you comfortable or uncomfortable? And if it's making you uncomfortable, then um, you know, addressing it with that person in a tactful way, and seeing what they say about it. Sometimes, the things that can be deal breakers in relationships, sometimes it's not seemingly major stuff. Sometimes it can be just cultural, or you know, just differences between two people, cultural or otherwise. But if it's uncomfortable for you, I wouldn't even worry about the color of the flag. If it's uncomfortable for you, to then think about it in terms of, that just doesn't sit well with me. I think I need to have a conversation with this person and talk about it. Now, if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, that it's, I guess it just depends on the degree of discomfort, right? So if somebody is saying, oh, well, I don't know, they don't see any problem with, I don't know, checking out 14-year-old boys or girls, maybe that's not a conversation you really need to have. Maybe that's just a deal breaker. And I would encourage you for that to be a deal breaker. But if it's something like how they handle, I don't know. I use this example all the time because I think it's so relevant for people. They say something, their intention is not harmful, right? They're making a joke, they make some sort of comment. They don't mean to be hurtful or insensitive. And the other person, we might take it as, hey, I don't like being joked with that way, or that wasn't funny, or that just didn't sit right with me. And then they we say that to them, and then they continue to fight us on that. Oh, I was just making a joke, or you're taking it, you're, man, you're super sensitive, or they're fighting for their point of view, that kind of thing. Tends to happen a lot. So realizing it's more about how you feel about something, and it's about how the other person responds to, if that's a boundary crossed for you, how they respond to that, if you and vice versa, right? Because nobody knows where each other's boundaries are. So if we make a comment that we don't, I don't know, we're uh, make a comment like, wow, man, that shirt sure is loud, or wow, just, I wouldn't have expected you to pick out a shirt like that. And we don't mean it in an offensive way. That just was what came out of our mouth. But and then they get offended by that. Then it's sort of like, okay, wow, okay, that was not my intention. I did not mean to offend you. Like, I won't mention that again. We don't need to sit there and fight for, uh, our intentions. Does that make sense as far as red flags go? So taking the pressure off of yourself, you don't need to figure out the other person's intention. It's more about where that sits with you and what you need to do about it. And then that'll determine, like, can this be resolved? If it's an issue for you, and it's not, this other person's not seeing that it's an issue, and they continue to fight you on this, and there is no negotiation possible, then that's going to be significant, and that's something to, at a minimum, keep an eye on, because that's probably that pattern of their inability to kind of see things from another person's point of view is going to most likely continue to happen. So then you'll have to figure out what to do down the road. Elizabeth says, yeah, there's way too many enablers who are okay with the abuse as long as they're not on the receiving end of it. Yes. And I think a lot of those people truly, well, I think they tend to minimize it. They don't see it as big of a problem as it is, in part because it's not happening to them, and in part because they want to be in denial, because to actually admit that this is a problem means that they're going to have to do something. They're either going to have to say something to the person, they're going to have to distance themselves. It's going to upset the balance in their own life. And most people don't like that. So it's easier for them to say, at least to themselves, oh, well, this is just how they fight. Or this is, you know, well, this is just their relationship, or these are just family dynamics, and they gloss over them and they just leave them alone. And yeah, that's frustrating. But you see that not with just abuse, but with addiction, with alcoholism, with lots of things. It's amazing how people can minimize that kind of behavior. Oh, well, little Johnny, he doesn't really have a drinking problem. I mean, he can still hold the job, or he has his own house, or he can still pay rent. Oh, it's not that bad. Yes, you got a DUI, but it's only one. Okay, yes, you got another DUI, but it's only two. It's 2 in 7 years. It's not that many. They just rationalize. It happens all the time. And that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, with addiction treatment in general, is working on those around the person with the problematic behavior, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, money, hoarding, abuse, you name it, it's everybody around them that tries to protect this person from suffering consequences. Okay, let's see. Fatima asks, my parents expect an apology after abusing me. What do I do? I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I guess my question to you would be, um, what what do you feel about that? I know you're in a difficult situation. You're at home with them. There's the coronavirus going on. We had spoken about potentially calling a domestic or some domestic violence shelters, seeing what your options were for places that you could go, etc. How kind of where are you with all of that? And what would happen if you didn't apologize? So, I mean, yes, of course, they want you to apologize, right? But uh, I guess what happens if you don't apologize? And and what would happen if you were to apologize? Like, how would this play out? Oh, Gigi. Oh my goodness. Yes, long time no see. She says, hello, all. It's been a long time. So happy to catch the chat again. Yes, welcome. Jess. Uh, oh, Jess, this is one of my very favorite comments that people make or questions that they ask. So Jess's comment is, I don't want to be a, a magnet for narcissists anymore. I might have to be alone because I just keep meeting them. This is so common for people, myself included, struggling with that. Like, what on earth? Do I have a lightning rod on me? How is it that I am attracting all of these problematic people? They just seem to come out of the woodwork, not just with dating, but with friends, with coworkers, with you name it. And I just, I'm tired of it. I just want to be alone. What is going on? And um, it's really important that you understand we don't have control over who we attract and who we meet. Really, by and large, we don't, right? We're all gonna meet a wide variety of people. We're gonna attract a wide variety of people. It's not so much about that's the wrong point of focus, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We don't have control over that, over who we meet and who we attract. But we do have control over who we let into our lives and for how long. This, please understand what I'm saying here, because this can really take the pressure off and it can help to set you free. So there's so much garbage out there that I see, especially on YouTube, about attracting narcissists and law of attraction and all of this kind of stuff. Please, this is magical thinking. It'll only keep you stuck and it'll only delay your healing even longer. So manipulative, exploitative people are attracted to supply. They're attracted to what they want at the time. And that's just going to vary based on who else is in the room around them. It feels so personal because we might have had this happen a couple times, but they just go around trying this game on pretty much everybody, and they're all different. So some of them, like, you might have seen different articles, I don't know, or videos or whatever, where certain abusive people talk about how they know a target from a mile away, kind of a thing, and they can walk into a room and tell who's going to be a target. And that is true to some extent, but only for them, because each abusive or exploitative person is attracted to a different type of supply. So for example, you might have one exploitative person, very sociopathic person, right? They're trying to get money out of somebody. They walk into a room, they might go after the low-hanging fruit. They might go after the people that are elderly or that are wearing furs and gold jewelry and that they seem who like they have a lot of money, or the ones that just seem really gullible. They might go after those people, but they also might like the thrill of the chase, and they might go after somebody that they perceive to be the smartest person in the room. So we don't know. This is why trying to figure out somebody else's intentions, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's about what works for you, what's comfortable or uncomfortable for you. So, and sometimes you can't tell right away. And I remember, man, when I was dating and I was meeting, I, it's a range. I was meeting some really awesome guys and I was reading some like really scary guys. And every time I would meet a scary or abusive or manipulative guy, I would get so discouraged and think, man, what is wrong with me? And I would really internalize that. And it just felt very deflating of why do I still attract these kinds of men? And, you know, like what's wrong with me? But I realized sometimes it just takes a while to see a person for who they really are. And some people can put on a good act. And, like the Bill Cosbys of the world or the Scott Petersons or, there's lots of them out there. So that they can come across really well. And then after a few weeks or a few months, you start seeing like, oh, yikes, that's not okay with me, or that's a problem. And here's the thing too, is when there's issues and you bring them up, paying attention to how they handle those as well. So, um, but regaining your power in all of this and realizing, what do I have control over? What do I not have control over is an absolute game changer. And yep, if you get a less than desirable person slides under your radar and has you fooled for a little bit, so be it. It happens to the best of us. It's their behavior is a reflection of them, not of you. And you got them out. You got them out in record time. Another person might stay with them for 45 years. So it's just seeing problematic behavior for what it is, as fast as you can, but you'll see it. You've been down this road before. Okay, let me see here. Also, this is random. I wanted to pass along that I've heard from a couple of different people now about they were needing some resources, especially during this whole COVID-19 thing, that food was an issue, that they had tried going to the food bank and they had gotten turned away. So I just wanted to mention, if anybody is struggling with that, there are oftentimes churches have food pantries. So that might be another resource to look into in your area. You oftentimes don't have to be a member of that church, or even that, you don't even have to be of the same faith. So that can be a resource as well, is to call them and say, hey, that you're needing some help with food, and can they help you out? So just, sorry, needed to say that before I forgot. Let's see here. Chris says, it's like we are glow bugs. We shine and therefore we are easy to spot. I think it's in our attitudes and our smiles. Yeah, I think there's probably something to that. Friendly and approachable people tend to come across as friendly and approachable. And that's attractive to, I think, most people out there. So manipulators, if they see that door is already kind of cracked open, they're going to be some of the first ones to try to walk through it. But again, that's, you know, you are who you are. There's nothing wrong with being friendly and approachable. And if they start acting inappropriate, then that's when we shut the door. We're not okay with that. Have told the story a couple times before, but I had an experience at my previous job where I was real, just friendly and approachable and was smiling. And I'd always make small talk with pretty much everybody that I saw every single day. And one of the front desk kind of security guards there was, um, I wasn't intending to flirt at all. He was older. Totally not my type at all in any way, shape, or form. And was always very friendly. I never thought anything of it. It was never inappropriate. It was just, just how you would joke around with, I don't know, like joke around with another coworker, male or female, like it wasn't anything. And then he began to kind of hit on me and I felt so horrible. I was like, man, what kind of vibe am I sending out? Was I sending out the message that I would somehow be open to that? And if so, I just was so disgusted by him coming on to me so inappropriately. It'd be one thing if he had asked me out, like that would have caught me off guard and I still would have said no. But I guess what really bothered me is there was no respect in his approach. It was just kind of a sleazy come-ons, sleazy, uncomfortable come-ons. And I really thought, well, okay, maybe I need to change. I need to not smile so much. I need to not make small talk. And I was really trying to change a lot of my behavior because I felt like, oh, I'm giving off the wrong impression. And then I kind of realized like, no, I wasn't. I did nothing wrong. I was interacting with him how I interact with every other coworker there. He just decided I gave him an inch, he was going to take a foot. And then talking to other female coworkers, turns out he'd done the same thing to them. So these kinds of things just happen. I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep over it. Like I said, every person that has problematic behavior they have different motives and they have different ways of going about it. And trying to anticipate all of that is going to exhaust you. Like all you have to focus on is where your boundaries are and how you're implementing your boundaries. That's it. Then you don't have to worry about, is this person a narcissist? Are they not a narcissist? Are they well intended? Is it their culture? Did they mean it? Did they not mean it? You don't even have to do any of that. Then it's just focusing on, where is my boundary with this? And how do I assert my boundary? That's it. Darlene, my goodness. Okay, says, how do you deal with mirror aversion caused as a child? My dad held me in front of a mirror telling me I was ugly and didn't release me until I said, yes, I'm ugly. Now all I see in the mirror is fugly. I I guess first and foremost, I am blown away and I'm so sorry that that happened to you, um, as a child, especially. That's just beyond horrific. And uh, I hope that as an adult, you can see your father's behavior as a reflection of him. There was obviously something profoundly wrong with him, because normal, well-adjusted adults wouldn't even dream in their worst nightmares to do something like that to a child. So his behavior has, I know it was directed towards you, but it truly had nothing to do with you. It was his own unresolved stuff, or it was untreated mental illness. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with him, but that was his own issues that were coming out onto you. So what can you do now besides realizing that you were subjected to, you were getting the brunt end of, um, all of his baggage and unresolved stuff? that's so outside the realm of, uh, normal behavior for even for an abusive person. Like, that's extreme. And that's, yeah, that's just very, it's its own new level of low. So what can you do now? I would encourage you now to try to undo what he did. And so one of the ways that you can go about this is for you to consciously spend time in the mirror doing the opposite. So whereas before you would stand in front of the mirror and say, "Yes, I'm ugly." Now doing the opposite, standing in front of the mirror and saying, "There is a lot that is right about me." And if you can, start listing these things that you like about yourself. That you really like the hair that you do have, or the teeth that you do have, or the nose that you do have, or the, um, you know, I don't know, different features about yourself, things that you like. And if you can't find anything right away, to at least just say to yourself, "You know what? There's a lot that's right about me. There's a lot there's a lot that is good and right about me." And saying that until you start believing it, because it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. Darlene says, "I know he didn't love me because I am tall like him." I will try that. Oh, that's good. She says, "I do like my personality." Well, that's a big step in the right direction. And I just wanted to clarify too. Honey, he didn't love you. He didn't love you because you're tall like him. He didn't love you, or he had trouble even tapping into that part of himself. He had d he had trouble loving you because of stuff within him. He might have thought it had to do with your height. You might have thought it had to do with your height, but that's not it. It goes what was going on with him was so much more beyond that. So much more beyond that. It was most likely, especially if you had this shared commonality with him, he's tall, you're tall. If anything, it was his own dissatisfaction with himself that he was projecting onto you, that he was putting onto you. So it's, um, yeah, yeah, it sounds like you just got wrapped up. He wrapped you up, not you got wrapped up. He wrapped you up in his own unresolved uh, baggage and issues within himself. Okay, let's see here. And Truth Seeker says, "Dana, a game of some of these creepy narcissists is the contrarian projection, where they take a strength of yours um, and try to publicly reverse it to shame you." So, like in my case, modesty. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe. Are you saying with my experience with the security guard at my former job? I know what you're saying in general. I have seen this where they might, let's say somebody loves to play the piano, or let's say they're even a concert pianist, and the abusive person, whether it's their parent or their partner or whoever, says, "God, I can't believe, how did you ever get a job as a concert pianist? Man, that person, whoever hired you must be deaf. You just have no talent, blah, blah, blah." And they attack a strength in the other person to make themselves feel better. Or if you're a great cook, they criticize your cooking. or if you're, um, whatever it might be, handy, or uh, you like to garden, or you're a good parent. I think there's a lot of the parenting thing is something a lot of people get because that's really kind of the low hanging fruit. It hurts a person uh, kind of in multiple ways when their parenting is critiqued. Oh, you're a terrible parent, kind of a thing, especially if they are doing all these things to be a good parent. Oh, very cool. Huffle Mom says, I used to believe that I was ugly and awful. I thought that's why I was abused. Only recently have I begun to accept that I'm actually a beautiful person. I can smile at me. Very, very cool. I'm glad. Yeah, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's so important that we see these for what they are. And in our society, especially, this it's uncomfortable to see our strengths. It can feel uncomfortable. Like, well, I don't want to brag. I don't want to, you know, I don't want people to think I'm a narcissist or that I'm self-absorbed. And so for a lot of people, they tend to kind of downplay that or they just don't bring it up. And however, that's fine. But you at least need to acknowledge, hey, you know what? I'm a pretty good cook, or I'm a caring person, or, these are whatever your strengths might be. I really care about other people, or I really, uh, you know, I'm dedicated. I get determined. I get determined to figure things out. Like that's a really great skill, you know? So knowing these things about yourself. And then when you can find these good traits, then I think it helps to expand our idea of what we consider ugly and what we consider beautiful, because it goes so much further than beyond just what's in the mirror, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are physically beautiful, like they won the genetic lottery, but inside they're vapid. There's nothing there, or what's there is just ugh, it's just garbage. Like they're they're awful people. So it ugly isn't just what we see in the mirror. I mean, and really, even when there is beauty there, that fades. It's such um, a fleeting way to measure beauty. Beauty truly does come from within. So I would encourage you to have it come from within, because when we do place so much of our value on our exterior, on this shell, right? This human body that we have, that's a hard way to live because our exterior is continually changing. And it's it you know gravity takes its toll on all of us. Age happens, and it's a really difficult way to if you've ever seen that show, Botched, the plastic surgery show, and these people are on there, and it's so heartbreaking to hear their stories about how profoundly unhappy they were bullied or something happened, so they're spending all this time getting all of this surgery trying to feel better about themselves, and it's never it feels good in the moment for them, but then that fades, and then there's something else they wanna fix, and then there's something else. And it can be never ending if we only view, um, beauty as something being on the surface. Okay, Fatima saying with her parents, she says they're narcissists, um, and even after crying to them, telling them that I wanted to die because of how they treated me, they still blamed me and said I was abusing them and that I deserved to be treated horribly. And Jack's advice was, at the very least, see if you can escape for short moments and talk to safe, caring people. And Fatima, we had spoken yesterday a little bit about the option of either calling at a domestic violence shelter in your area and talking to an advocate there. Um, they're generally open 24 hours a day, so that's an option, as well as calling a suicide hotline. You don't need to be at that point where you're actively suicidal to call a suicide hotline, but the point where you are, where you're feeling kind of just at wit's end, that's another resource for you. So you can call them and they're there as well. And both of those hotlines tend to be open 24 hours a day. So I know your living situation uh, is a stressful one and it's a difficult one. Maybe if you speak to an advocate at a domestic violence shelter, kind of coming up with some ideas, just some options. What are your options for a plan for potentially leaving? What would that look like? You don't have to act on it, but sometimes it helps to just figure out what your options are so that if and when you are ready, you know the next step. Let's see here. Very cool. Darlene says it was only a few years ago that I recognized that inside I'm not ugly. Well, I'm thrilled to hear that you realize that now. A lot of people really struggle with that and don't even realize it for decades and decades. It's amazing how that mm, when we're around a person who is verbally and emotionally abusive like that, and then they're not around, that we can sometimes take on that voice, that abusive voice, and it's like they never left. And then we're just gonna pick up where they left off, and we're gonna tell ourselves everything that we're doing bad and wrong, and it's that hypercritical attitude, and or just that demeaning, hateful, flat out hurtful attitude that you experienced. And so it's a huge step in the right direction to just realize, yeah, you know what? There's a lot about you that's lovable. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to get to know those parts of yourself. Fatima says, I'm ready to take all of the steps, but what if I can't handle life on my own? I'm so used to this abusive relationship that I'm not familiar and comfortable with any other one. So, Fatima, that's great that you have that clarity of, okay, this is the overriding concern here of what if I can't handle life on my own? I'm so used to my parents handling everything for better or for worse. They handled everything. What if I can't do it? Okay, that gives us a starting point. So now we can kind of flesh that out a little bit more and let's get clear on what does handle life on your own look like. So I would encourage you to get out a sheet of paper or open up a Word document, however you take notes, and get clear on that. What does that look like to you to have to be able to handle life on your own? My guess is it's going to involve paying rent or potentially getting a roommate. It's going to involve lining up some sort of transportation, um, developing some semblance of a budget, getting some sort of job. Uh, you know, if there's certain life skills that you haven't built yet, to think about, okay, well, what else is feeling kind of overwhelming or scary? Maybe it's the thought of, I don't know how to do laundry, or I don't know how to cook. Okay, well, that's the challenge. The good news is you're not the first person to have moved out. So any challenge that you're up against has has already been resolved. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel with any of this. We just have to figure out, okay, well, what are the challenges that you're facing at this time? And then let's address those. And I will tell you, when a person goes out on their own, it definitely can feel very overwhelming, and there can be a lot of trial and error. That's part of it. But I think if you can realize that it's part of it, it's so easy to look around and be like, man, everybody else has got this whole adulting thing all figured out. You know, boy, this other person, they've always had a job. They've always balanced their checkbook. They just seem to always do everything right. And here I am. I've, balanced checks and struggled with, I don't know, credit card debt or um, I took my car in to get repaired or I waited too long to get my car repaired and cost twice as much because then there was another car repair I had to make on top of it. All of these things, that's the learning curve. And that learning curve is it's always there to some extent. But like I said, the good news is lots of people have ridden this learning curve before. So if the more clarity you have with you're like, gosh, I don't know a thing about living on my own, about paying bills or how to set up a checking account or how to have a car. I don't know anything about that. Okay, fair enough. We all start somewhere. Nobody starts off just knowing all of this stuff. It is the learning curve. So I guess try to take some of that pressure off and realize that yes, these are all these skills that you need to learn, but that these are also skills that you absolutely can learn. Let's see. Oh, well, Fatima, my goodness. You are much more skilled than I think you realize, my dear. She says, I can do housework and cook, um, but keeping up with college and work and social skills scares me. Okay. If you got housework and cooking down, those are two huge ones. Huge. So, yay for that. As far as college goes, have you started college yet? Or is this going to be your first semester? And hopefully, while you're answering that, oh, very cool, Cecilia. Thank you for that. She says, um, she says, I'm here if you have any questions. I'm a 4.0 student now. After many years of struggling, I'm living on my own with my cat. Okay, Fatima's started college. Okay, so Fatima, um, most universities have a lot of even community colleges tend to have quite a bit of resources for students. Are you at a 4-year university or are you at a community college? Let's see while you answer that. Well, I'll just go ahead and give you my answer and uh, you let me know if I'm off track. Okay. So if you've started college, 4-year universities in particular, they tend to have a counseling center and they tend to offer free counseling. Okay. She's at a community college. Community colleges, I would encourage you to call or and you're 18. Okay. Okay, good, that helps. Community colleges, I would encourage you to email or call your advisor. I don't know how they're doing things right now with the virus in your area, but oftentimes they will still have somebody on campus that you can speak to, or they can refer you out for counseling. Regardless, even most for your universities, if you have one nearby, they have the counseling that they offer isn't always necessarily just for students that attend their university. Oftentimes, it can be for the general public. So that's a potential resource that's free that I would encourage you to use. And a lot of these issues you can bring up with the counselor. So talking about, okay, I'm over because these concerns that you have, I'm overwhelmed about juggling college coursework and working and social skills, and this is a big change. And lots of students, their first, I would say, first couple years of college really struggle with this. So you're not alone in that. And the good news is this whole kind of emotional mental health thing the topic is so much more widely discussed. It's so much more commonplace for people to be reaching out for help, and for faculty and different counseling centers to be equipped in order to meet the needs of various students. So yeah, and Cecilia says yes, take advantage of every free resource you can. You won't regret it. Yes, and I think that's really great advice. Yeah. I guess maybe that's where I would encourage you to start, would be to uh, contact your community college where you're going, and see if they offer any type of counseling services. If they don't, then I would contact the four-year university that's closest to you and talk to their counseling department and see if, in most places right now, they're doing telehealth. So it would just be through, um, like a web, like Zoom, Skype type service, and meeting with them and see. So they have quite a few different like life skills classes for students who this is their first time, because it's like I said, you're so not alone in this. There's so many students, this is their first time living away from home, having to figure all of this out on their own, and it can be overwhelming. Okay, good. She says, thank you so much. This was very helpful. Okay, good deal. And seriously, reach out. We are here pretty much every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And uh yeah, we'll see. Bring your questions. They don't have to be directly related to abuse. It can be anything. The chat, you'll see if you're here long, the chat, all kinds of ground is covered in the chat. Like all kinds. There's stuff I'll start reading it and I'm like, what on earth are you guys talking about? So uh yeah, so bring any questions you have and we'll see what we can do. So to support you during this. Chris, that's insightful. Uh, and I agree completely. It says, I've worked with communication skills the majority of my life. The most important thing for me to do is set boundaries. Yes. And I will add to that, it's so interesting how often we, people in general, can get those two skills confused, thinking, well, my boundaries were violated. And so I just need to continue pointing this out to the other person. And I'll just continue asserting myself and I'll just continue letting them know that's not okay with me. That's not okay with me. Please don't talk to me like that. That's not okay with me, until hopefully one day they get it. And reality is, a big part of having an effective boundary is having some sort of consequence to it. There's some sort of action that we take, where if that boundary isn't respected, then what? Then what's the next step? What do we do? So that that can be a real game changing thing for a lot of people. Um, I can't tell you how many people, myself included, they think, oh, this issue with the relationship, this can be solved. This can be worked out. We just need to improve communication. This other person, I guess I'm just not saying things clearly, or they're not getting it for whatever reason. And so we just need to keep figuring this out. And they keep doing something that's profoundly hurtful. And then realizing, oh, because sometimes I think people have this idea of if we cut contact with somebody, that's a sign of immaturity. There's this whole idea of, oh, you've got to forgive and forget, or you should always keep in contact with everybody. Kind of the whole forget and forgive kind of a thing. And the reality is that's not true. If somebody's not respecting your boundaries and they're continuing to, they just have they have no respect. Like if they just are steamrolling over your boundaries and um, they don't seem to understand the concepts of dignity and respect, then it's not a communication issue. It's a boundary issue on their side. And all we can do is assert our boundaries or then start to distance ourselves if they continue to be disrespected. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Oh, and Fatima, by the way, too, I would encourage you, uh, if you are going to be back here next week, to spend some time between now and then writing down a list of some questions or some of the things that you feel are overwhelming you or that you're concerned about. And we can make some time to go over that. If you're comfortable doing that. If not, I completely understand. Helpful Mom, oh, thanks, says, "Hey, Dana. Jack and I just finished reading The Narcissist Playbook. What an awesome book. I'm probably going to read it again." Very cool. I'm so glad that you guys liked it. I will be curious to know um, yeah, kind of what aha moments you had and what parts resonated with you. And Darlene makes the comment about forgiveness. She says, forgiveness doesn't mean you leave yourself vulnerable. You can forgive for your own health and still go no contact. Yes, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. Forgiveness does not mean you leave yourself vulnerable. It's, um, forgiveness, I think, is something that, as far as a second chance goes, is um, forgiveness in that sense, it's earned, it's not just given. And that's a mistake a lot of people make is they think, oh, well, I'm going to forgive, I'm going to forgive this person. And really, we're talking about two very different things here. If we're talking about forgiveness in terms of giving this person another chance in our life, then that needs to be earned forgiveness. That needs to be more than just an I am sorry. That needs to be earned through appropriate behavior over a period of time where trust has now been reestablished and you're comfortable with the fact that this person is no longer going to hurt you like that again. Most people don't even get that, right? So the person says it's like we have this elementary school version of forgiveness. Somebody hurts us, they're forced to say that they're sorry, right? Or they feel like that's the thing they're supposed to say, and we feel obligated to accept that apology and then to go on as if they never hurt us to begin with. And that's not reasonable. Like that's not how life works. So uh and nor is it how life should work. It's important that we acknowledge when somebody's done something wrong and that it takes action, restorative action to correct the damage, not just the empty promises. Words are empty. So, talk is, like I said, talk isn't just cheap, it's free. So we can't look at talk, we have to look at actions. But the forgiveness that you're talking about, Darlene, which I agree with everything that you say 100%. The forgiving for your own health and still going no contact, that level of forgiveness, I view this as more of forgiveness in the sense of working to release. So forgiving, I'm working to forgive, I'm working to release this anger that I have towards this person. And that type of release, and I oftentimes don't even, I just bypass the word forgiveness altogether because I think it's lost its appropriate meaning over time. And I just, I think it's such a significant concept that I want to make sure that people don't misunderstand, you know? Um, so yeah, when I think, okay, well, yes, I need to work on, if they say, oh, well, you need to work on forgiving, I don't know, your ex or whoever hurt you. Okay, if we're talking about working on releasing anger towards them, yes, that's a process. And it's not because they somehow deserve that, because Lord knows they don't. But it's because I don't want that anger to consume me and ruin my life. But releasing anger, it's a process. It's not an event. And yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let's see here. Let me scroll up. Alora says, so I got a new job that I truly feel the universe brought to me, but I'm self deprecating. How do I keep believing in myself and not let my anxiety get to me? I have a great future. It's just up to me. So Tony Robbins talks a lot about this, and I really think that his way of going about this is one of the best ways I've ever heard. So I'm just gonna pass along what I had heard on a Tony Robbins video one time. And it was something along the lines, if you wanna change your beliefs, you need to change the references you have that are supporting those beliefs. So if you are the self-deprecation talk, the I'm not good enough, I know I'm gonna really mess this up, nothing good ever lasts for me, I'm not anywhere near as skilled as these other people. Get clear on what those beliefs are. I would encourage you to write them down. So what are these kind of unhelpful or destructive or negative beliefs? Write those down and then think about the opposite of um, of those beliefs. So, or the beliefs that you would like to have, that you would like to replace those with. So instead of saying, well, um, nothing good ever lasts for me, or nothing good ever happens to me. Thinking, okay, telling yourself, good things do happen to me. And here's the proof that I have of that. And then you have to think to all the different times that good things have happened to you and write down those references. This job is an example of a good thing that happened to you. This um I don't know, this friendship, or this, you're listing out other things that have been good in your life that have happened. So you're proving your old beliefs wrong, I guess. And then you're proving your new beliefs correct. And the more mm, it's like a table. The more kind of support, the more legs you have under that table, the more support it has. So that's the challenge with affirmations. That's the challenge with kind of new beliefs in general, is when we're just saying these things and we don't mean it. Like we were talking about earlier with the example of Darlene in the mirror and doing this kind of mirror work. Instead of just telling herself, oh, I am beautiful, I am, this, I am that, finding something that she can sink her teeth into, finding something that she truly believes is beautiful within herself. So she has references for that. So she's not just blowing sunshine at herself, you know? Like, yeah, there are some really beautiful things about me. I I really care about animals. I am a considerate person. I pick up after myself. I am whatever it might be. Do you see what I'm saying? You're finding things that have substance to them. And it's the same thing with overriding any type. of negative belief that we might have. Okay, let's see. Angela. Oh, we talked about this earlier, but y'all know I just love this question. She says, I keep attracting the same type of men. I really don't understand why I'm staying in this relationship. I know in my gut he's lying to me and it's really affecting me. How do I stop attracting the same type of men? So it's more about flipping the script here, asking yourself, what is it about these men, the same type of men that are attracting you? Because you we don't have control over who's attracted to you. You know, if you have a picture here on your screen, that little tiny thumbnail picture, you're a beautiful woman. So you're going to attract a lot of a lot of men. Um, and it's going to be the wide range of them. So it's not about the type of men so much as about uh what is it with these guys that you find attractive. So let me give you an example of this. Uh for example, so in my own life, I struggled with feeling this very same way. What is it? I keep after the second time this happened, I thought, okay, now it's not a coincidence. Now it's a pattern. So what's going on here? And what I realized was that what was attracting me to all of these men is I was really attracted to men that were very quick to just love bomb me, to shower me with attention and affection. They wanted to spend all their time with me. I felt um, appreciated and seen and um, loved and all just warm and fuzzy around them. And I would get so caught up in that, and it just never crossed my mind that that could possibly be inauthentic or that it was even just the infatuation stage of a relationship. And they could have really meant all of that. I mean, a lot of them didn't, but they could have really meant all of that, but they didn't know me well enough. So they had this fantasy of who I was, and I still had the fantasy of who they were because we didn't know each other. And then after some time went by and then the infatuation starts to wear off and then the realness sets in and you see the other person kind of warts and all, then you realize, "Oh my gosh, I've made a mistake," or they've thought, "Oh gosh, I've made a mistake. This isn't what I the relationship that I thought it would be," kind of a thing. So, realizing what is that initial hook? Are you falling for kind of someone finessing you right out of the gate? A lot of us are. And uh that might be part of it. Or let's see, let me scroll down and see if she's elaborated on that. Truth Seeker says, I wanted the fairy tale too. Thankfully, not anymore because I know it's called love bombing and it's a tactic of abuse. Yeah. And at a minimum, it's not real. Even if it is sincere, even if they're not an abusive person, we it's part of the infatuation stage. And a mature person understands that sounds so like judgmental, right? It sounds so heavy. Um, I guess when we know better. Because this is the hard thing too, especially with love bombing, is this kind of behavior, it's what's poets and songs and songwriters and books and every romantic comedy is based off of. So we're indoctrinated with this stuff at a young age, and we just eat it up thinking that this is love. And it's toxic images for both men and women that eat this up. The men can cultivate this white knight syndrome where they feel like their worth is really coming from rescuing a woman and that they need to always be there for her regardless, and that their job is to save a damsel in distress kind of a thing. And for women, it's this idea of we're waiting for our prince or princess charming, and that this person's love is gonna somehow fix all of our problems in our life, and that's really, really damaging. So so kind of seeing that pattern that's potentially hooking you. For a lot of people, so besides the love bombing, it tends to be moving too fast, and when I say moving too fast, it's getting caught up in those emotions of mistaking your feelings for reality. Oh my god, I feel so amazing around this person. They they're so loving. I feel like I've never met anybody like this before. They're the perfect person. Where have they been all my life? This kind of thing. That's still all part of that infatuation phase. And it's a relationship doesn't start to get real until people start to get real. And when people actually start to get real, it's that level of um when they start disagreeing. Because at the first usually 90 days or so, most people are on their best behavior. They want things to work out. They're more focused on finding common ground. The more comfortable they get over time, then they relax and then they feel more comfortable just having their own opinions about things. So, let's say you guys order Chinese food every Friday night, and then one Friday comes along and you or your partner decide, no, I think I want pizza instead. And the other person looks at you like you're from Mars. Like, well, what do you mean? I don't like pizza. We always order Chinese every Friday. And then that creates some tension. And so and that's a very obviously a very light example of tension. But paying attention to how somebody handles, being disagreed with, you setting boundaries, um, uh, how do they handle anger and frustration and all? And I'm not saying, some people call it like shit testing their partner. I'm not saying to do that, but I'm saying to pay attention when disagreements come up or when this person's venting about their own life. How are how are they describing it? Are you hearing accountability in what they're saying, or are they just this perpetual victim? So, having I think it can be helpful to look at a relationship in terms of it's about it's about having a healthy relationship, which means having a functional, at a minimum, having a functional relationship. That's the foundation of a healthy relationship. So, a functional relationship is one that's based off of functional behavior, functional communication, functional boundaries, functional um, expectations, functional uh, ways of disagreeing, um, functional degrees of affection. These kinds. It needs to, and by functional, I mean it needs to be working for both people involved. It can't just be a one-sided thing. Okay. Let's see here. Let me scroll up. And Huffle Mom was kind of adding to this, and she says, "You know what? I'm aware that Jack, who's also in the chat, isn't a perfect man, but he's perfect for me. He loves me, and I can't express how grateful I am for that." And I would also add, too, with what I've seen with the two of you over, I don't know how long you guys have been, years that you've been here. Um, it's that that desire to have open, honest, sincere, solutions-oriented communication. Even when things go off track, it's that desire of it's that constant solution orientedness. How can we make things work? How can we get things back on track? What kind of issue am I having? And then communicating that with each other. Even if there's delays in that communication where you're like, you know what? I am feeling just really, this is not a good time. Like, I am not in a good headspace to have this conversation. It's going to lead to a fight, or I'm just, um, I'm just triggered. I'm just not in a good headspace. That you guys go back and you have these conversations, and that you're both very growth oriented, which I would say is also a required skill for a functional relationship. That's huge. And Darlene, okay, so Darlene brings up a good point, and Susanna made a comment that I want to comment on. So Susanna, okay, says, I am not in a functional relationship. And Darlene says, I don't know if I would even recognize a healthy relationship, but I'm generally happy living alone with my pets anyways. One of the things too about functional relationships, or healthy relationships, is in part it is about recognizing them, but more so than that, it's not so much, it's about recognizing your own boundaries. That's such a big part of the puzzle. It's not about having to kind of suss out, is this a healthy relationship? It's about, or is this other person healthy? When you have a solid understanding of your boundaries, and you know when they've been crossed, and when they've been crossed, it's this feeling of, um, if it's a low level violation, it feels like you're irritated. You might stew about it a little bit. You might, you kind of mull it over late at night, kind of a thing. If it's ongoing, or if it's major, you're thinking about it a lot. You're calling up anybody that'll listen. Can you believe that so and so did this? Or I don't know what to do about this, blah, blah, blah. You're really upset about it. Those are all signs of a boundary violation. Anger, frustration, um, hurt, these kinds of things. So then it's like, okay, well then if I've had this boundary violated, then I need to figure out how to get this imbalance corrected. And that involves being assertive, talking to the other person about, hey, I really didn't appreciate how you made this comment last night, or, um, that just didn't really sit, that didn't sit right with me. Or can you please be a little bit more tactful? Like, I'm all for constructive criticism, but just, you know, like, please, constructive criticism, yes, bashing and being rude, no, not so much. So these functional relationships, I guess is what I'm saying, is it's not so much that they're seen, it's more so that they are created. So it's not about finding this other perfect person who's going to be, super healthy and functional, and this perfect partner for us. It's going to be about finding that other person who has a similar understanding as us, as far as what dignity and respect are, what your boundaries are, um, or if they don't understand certain boundaries, that they're willing to at least give you room in certain ways. And that you have that level of communication there, that they're also growth oriented, that they're willing and able to talk about issues in the relationship, that they're wanting to work on them. And, first and foremost, I think that they're sincere with what they say. There's a lot of insincere people out there. If that's what you're dealing with, somebody lying, cheating, stealing, this kind of stuff, who was it? George Simon, and his, oh wow, what was the book he wrote? It might have been called Character Disturbance. He talks about this, and I think this is a really great distinction that's not often made, but really needs to be, about the difference between kind of personality quirks and like a like a full out character disturbance. If you're dealing with a character disturbance, lying, cheating, stealing, regardless of the reasons why, they had a bad childhood, they're struggling with addiction, all of these reasons that might be, it still doesn't change the fact that their behavior is lying, cheating, stealing, and stuff that's, you there is no relationship possible if trust isn't present. And trust cannot be present when there's that kind of behavior going on. So, uh, it's, uh, being able to cultivate a healthy relationship with another person is is where it's at. And that takes a lot of practice. Okay, let's see here. Jack says, uh, did you see the stream where Dana realized that Huffle Mom and I were a married couple? He says, "Oh, it was just so precious." And well, it was awesome. Yes, I remember that. I was so tickled when I realized that you guys were married. I just thought that was the coolest thing that you guys would, as a couple, be in a chat and about relationship stuff and be willing to explore that as a couple. It's just that's so cool. And let's see. Oh, you know what, Jack? I just remembered we had talked about some exercises, some homework for you to do last time I was on the live stream. Did you guys do any of that? And if so, how did it go? And Jess asks, why don't empaths attract other empaths? Take a drink of water and I will do my best to answer that. Here's my take on that. In a relationship, there tends to be, especially with empaths or this kind of behavior, empaths especially. Okay, so you have with empaths this um, people who are very in tune with other people's emotions, right? What is not said enough, I think, when it comes to empaths is that most empaths are not, they're very in tune with the emotions of other people, but it's at the expense of their own. And and when you have somebody that they're comfortable, we all have roles that we're comfortable in, whether it's how we grew up or it's the opposite of how we grew up or um, whatever it might be. So for a lot of people, it empaths usually it tends to be more of like the caretaker role. So we feel more comfortable being being there for other people, right? I'll help you with your emotions. I'll be there for you. Well, if there's two people like that in a relationship, then it can get really awkward because it's like, "Ooh, yikes, no. I'm not comfortable with my emotions and I don't want you taking on my emotions because I'm so worried about you. I don't want you worried about me." Then that defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do, right? So most empaths aren't attracted to each other kind of for that reason because it's uncomfortable. It's sort of like, well, then who am I in this relationship? If I'm always the one that's taking care of the other person and now they're trying to take care of me, then it's going to be kind of this. But if I only feel safe in a relationship where I give 110% and they only feel safe if they give 110%, now we're going to be trying to outdo each other. And a lot of so much of this is just it flies underneath our radar of conscious thought. And then we chalk it up to like, oh, it just didn't work out, or there just wasn't that level of chemistry there. But often that's what it is. So, uh, kind of same thing when you have two very narcissistic people. If more often than not, you won't see two people like that in a relationship because the relationship just isn't big enough for both of them. There's only so much room for uh, for for one narcissist's ego, let alone two. And then there's going to be this power struggle of, well, who's going to be the center of attention kind of a thing. And that just doesn't tend to work. So normally with the narcissist, you have one person who, um, the relationship, the narcissist who's at the center, the relationship's all about them. And then you have their partner who is their role is I'm really comfortable playing a supporting role and being there and helping them meet all of their needs. So it's like the narcissist is the sun, and we're just this planet that's revolving around the sun. And if we don't have that dynamic with them, we find it with somebody else. Or if we are attracted to somebody who is more of that caretaker or empath along those levels, it um, a lot of these relationships fizzle out because we might be drawn to that when we're feeling wounded. Like, I'm wounded, I don't feel safe, and they're gonna be the ones that are like, "Oh, kind of there, honey, come on in, I'll take care of you," kind of a thing. But then after we start getting on our feet again, it's like, "Oh, yikes, now I don't this relationship started off imbalanced, and but I'm only comfortable with the one that's gonna be meeting their needs, and I don't know how to balance this," and so then it just kind of fizzles out. It's a challenge, and this isn't to say that you can't have a relationship with two people that are, uh, deeply in tune with other people's emotions, but what they will need for it to work and for it to actually be healthy is they also need to be deeply in tune with their own emotions and be able to be assertive and to have boundaries and to have that ongoing communication. And that I mean, these are just skills uh, that take a lot of time to to kind of go through because so much of this stuff, like I said, it's not at our conscious level of awareness. So we might and we're there's only so much healing that a person can do outside of a relationship with another person. Especially a romantic relationship with another person. Now, this isn't to say that I feel that you need to somehow get into a romantic relationship, in order to be completely healed. Some people decide that they never wanna date again. That's completely fine. What I am saying is that there's gonna be different issues that are going to surface that only tend to surface when we're in a romantic relationship with somebody. It's all kinds of stuff just bubbles to the surface. It's vulnerabilities, attachment issues, abandonment issues, all of that stuff comes out in, with a partner that doesn't come out with a parent or, a child or friends or coworkers or anything else. So, let's see here. Truth Seeker says, "Do givers compete?" LOL, like, who is the givingest? Yes, I really do think that they can. When people don't realize it's weird, like, when this stuff when you're it's just not at, like, your conscious level of awareness, when we're not aware of why we're doing what we're doing, the deeper reasons behind why we're doing what we're doing, then it doesn't seem that way. It just seems like, "Oh, well, I am just, you know, I just like to give up people gifts, or I just like to, always be the one other people can rely on." Oftentimes, what is at the core of that is this is the way this is the social currency that I use to kind of buy into a relationship. If I don't have this, then I don't have anything. So if kind of along the same lines with this, another example, a different example of this is, you see this with a lot of, um, comedians who grew up, maybe really overweight or being bullied, or they had some sort of they got picked on for some sort of reason. As a way of compensating for that, they developed their sense of humor. And that became their social currency that's how they got through life. That's how they got dates. That's how they navigated bullies. That's how they navigated the school system. It's now how they, you know, work. That's how they get paid. That's literally how they get paid. So we all have these certain things. It's whether or not we actually see it that way. It's is something else. Bonnie makes a great point. Says imbalance is a big red flag when involved in a narcissistic relationship, especially in a narcissistic relationship. But really, I would say any relationship, imbalance itself is a problem. And there's a lot of people out there because imbalance to fix in order to get balance, it's going to require confrontation. Now, this confrontation doesn't have to go hand in hand with aggression. I would I would say that it that true that healthy confrontation doesn't go hand in hand with aggression. It goes hand in hand with being assertive, but it feels risky saying, "Hey, I've got this issue," or "Hey, I think we need to talk about this," or "Hey, this isn't working for me." Being assertive like that means making yourself vulnerable. And so, um, in order to correct this imbalance, we have to be able to develop that emotional safety in this relationship, and that emotional safety is only cultivated when we're able to start, asserting ourselves. We bring up our issues, and it goes over well with the other person. Not saying that they agree with us, they might not, but that they're able to handle it maturely and respectfully and appropriately. And so the more we have a concern, we feel vulnerable, we bring it up, it's handled appropriately, and vice versa. They do the same thing, and we handle it in like a emotionally mature, safe way. That's how that emotional stability in a relationship is built up. And that's how those imbalances are corrected. But what a lot of people do is most people, I would say by and large, are not comfortable with confrontation or conflict. It's a skill that's also learned, is just sitting with that and not jumping to minimizing it or glossing it over or denying an issue or any of that, but actually acknowledging, yeah, this is an issue. This is something that needs to be addressed. Most people panic when they get to that point. They just instantly go back to being a child and being punished or being scolded or all of this um, unresolved issues in their life. Conflict brings up, or that even being assertive brings up a lot of um, uncomfortable issues for most people. And um, so knowing that, okay, if this relationship, that kind of the irony of it is, if this relationship stands any chance to ever be functional and healthy, there is no getting around this imbalance. Like we have to get things balanced. It's a must, or else that imbalance is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And over time, that relationship is going to topple over because it's so imbalanced. But what a lot of people do because they're not comfortable with confrontation is they just avoid um, they avoid uncomfortable confrontations until things get so extreme that that's when they decide, okay, something's got to be done. I need to handle this. Well, at that point, I mean, it's things are, you know, it's like the house is on fire. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of it's gonna be really, really difficult to go back um and to address those original imbalances. So, okay, let's see. Let me scroll up here. Yes, Missouri Cowboy makes the comment of underlying bitterness of the codependent. I gave and you didn't acknowledge my giving. Yes, and that goes back to that social currency that I was talking about. For for those that are more on that giving side of the spectrum. See, here's the thing. We all have blind spots to our personality, and all people, unless I think I would say less than 1%, even talking about psychopaths, there's very few people out there that are doing things that they haven't justified. Most people justify their behavior to themselves because we're as human beings, we're pretty much wired to do what we feel is right. So when you see all of this is why you hear um, murderers, even abusive people or murderers, and they're talking about their reasons, and they say that oh, they sleep fine at night. Well, because in their mind, they justified their actions. They feel it's the whole look at what you made me do. Or look at what my childhood made me do. In their mind, they're not to blame. It's everybody else is to blame. There's no accountability there on their end. When um so I guess the point of that is we all tend to see our actions in a good light, okay? And codependents are probably take this to an extreme. And this is the challenge of getting through to those that are more on that codependent or overgiver side of the spectrum, because this kind of behavior tends to be encouraged and applauded by society. Oh, you're so good. You are so self-sacrificing and you just give and give and give and you give time and energy and money that you don't have to other people. Oh, that's so beautiful. You're such a good person. You're such a good friend. You're always there 24 hours a day, 3 a.m. We can count on you, kind of a thing, over giving. And society just gobbles that up. But it's not a good trait. There's a major imbalance there. And where that tends to come from deep down is that's that codependence social currency of this is how I get safety in relationships. I overgive. I know that if I do more for deep down, it might not even be a conscious thing. It's often not a conscious thing. If I give you, if I prove my usefulness to you, right? If I can give you 110% or 150% and um, can be exactly what you need me to be, or can always be there for you, uh, then I'm earning, like I'm earning my place in this relationship. But that really wears out a codependent, and then that bitterness does set in, 'cause it wasn't they might have thought it was giving from a place of caring, but it was really giving from a place of social currency, so then they feel cheated. "Well, wait a minute. I just gave you I've paid for your love, for this relationship, for your time and attention with all of these gifts of my time and energy and affection and attention and all of this, and you just you break up with me? Or you don't appreciate that?" And then they get so offended by it. And that's a good way for all of us really to kind of cross-examine our behavior, because true giving, there is no expectation attached. This isn't to say there's no boundaries attached, but there's no expectation attached. I'm giving you a gift of my time, my energy, my money, what have you, because I want to. If you give me a gift back in time, awesome. If you don't, that's fine too, because there's no expectation there. It's a gift, no strings attached. But do you see the difference there between no strings attached and like no boundaries attached? So if it's becomes very one-sided, where you're continually and I would say that's more of an us issue too. If we're the one that's continually giving, especially time and energy to a relationship or a friendship, and it's not ever reciprocated or very infrequently reciprocated, then we need to take a step back and look at that and reevaluate. We're making this person our whole world. our very best friend, and we're nothing more than like an acquaintance to them. So our expectations um, of this, our role in this relationship is not, it's fantasy. It's not based in reality. So maybe we need to reevaluate the significance of the relationship, you know? Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Chris. Is talking to Jess, and she says, yeah, I can do things that benefit others while they can do other things that benefit me. Yeah, absolutely. And oh, who was it? Author, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Totally drawing a blank. Drawing a blank. The author of that book talks about this in terms of win-win. So it's a win. There's win-win situations, or there's lose-win, there's win-lose, and then there's lose-lose. And the ideal scenario is a win-win. I get something, you get something. We're both getting our needs met. I would say too, in terms of giving, the giver does get that benefit. It feels good. It feels good to do something nice for another person. That is the benefit that a giver gets from giving. That's a complicated way to say it. That is the gift that we get, right? When we give. But that's it. It ends there. It's just a feel good kind of thing. It's not done for, social status or clout or with strings attached. Oh, you owe me sometime down the road when, that's mafia style gift giving. That's not what we want to be doing here. Missouri Cowboy asks, well, what is the payoff for givers to compete? I don't think it's necessarily a payoff. I think it's the stability and reassurance of, this is the role as a giver. This is what I do in a relationship. I give, right? Like I give time, I give energy, I give, support, potentially money. I give because I don't think for the giver, it's the deep down. I don't think I really have value unless I overgive of this. I don't think I'm worth enough in a relationship. I don't have value unless I'm overgiving. So when you have two people that have, and this, I'm talking deep programming. I really don't think this is a conscious thing the vast majority of the time. Then it's sort of like, well, one of us is redundant. Like there has to kind of be an overgiver and an overtaker in order for that to work. But that's destructive too. So any imbalance is going to be imbalanced. It's going to eventually topple over because it's like spinning a top. If you spin it and there's that wobble that starts, it's just going to get worse. It doesn't, you've got to straighten it out. So, okay, let's see here. Dale Carnegie. Is it Dale Carnegie? Yes, you're right. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yes. And that's the challenge with so many people that are more on that overgiver side of the spectrum, is because it can feel good for us to give. If we don't know how to navigate the kind of social waters any other way, other than to be ingratiating, that over giving, that over niceness. We only if that's the main tool we have in our toolkit is niceness. That's how we navigate conflict or confrontation or building relationships. That's a problem. And this flies under the radar so often because it can be seen as, oh, this is so generous, this is so good. The book, um, what is it? I want to say, I think it's Alice Miller's book, The Drama of the Gifted Child, if I'm Thinking of the Correct Book, speaks about this and how so often you'll see this in children. You're like, oh, this child, they're so mature for their age. They're so considerate. Um, there's basically they're like little adults. They're so patient, they're so giving, they're so um, they don't act in an age appropriate way. And a lot of her work revolved around digging into this and realizing, you know what, this is a problem. So what society is saying, oh, this is really great behavior. This child, they're so mature, they're so, um, you know, not age appropriate. This is not a good thing. There's a reason this child has had to grow up so fast. An 8-year-old should behave like an 8-year-old, not like an 18-year-old, or not like a parent. You've got an 8-year-old that's taking care of a younger sibling, and um, it, she's running around trying to make lunch for them, and or do their laundry or take care of them. That's not the job of an 8-year-old. It's the job of the parent. So it's that level of inappropriate maturity, I guess, with children seems like it's a great thing, but it's not. It's a sign that there's some things that are off. Yes, I agree, Sebastian. He says niceness is being human. I think that's definitely a part of being human, for sure. For sure. Yes. But it's when that niceness is our only way to uh, handle problems. So if we're under a lot of stress, you know, and we're like, okay, I don't know how to deal with this. So if we're only dealing with it by being people pleasing, I'm going to buy this person a gift. I'm going to become overly affectionate with them. I'm going to do baby talk. I'm going to try to come across as cute or endearing or people pleasing, or give them their way, or and this stuff is not this is not at a conscious level for the vast majority of people. It really isn't. Even when we know that this is a thing, seeing this behavior within ourselves it's a whole different ballgame. It takes time to really see this. We all do this to some degree. It's just seeing it for what it is. People get nervous. Um, they might start talking in a higher voice. Like, "Oh, how are you doing? Oh, okay." Yeah, that kind of stuff that tends to come from nervousness, and they're trying to make themselves seem, cute and innocent. They're not aware that they're doing this, but that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. And of course, with this kind of behavior, this imbalanced behavior, uh, in a relationship, if there's stress and we handle it through being people pleasing, through gift giving, through compliments, through niceness, instead of actually we're bypassing being assertive, instead of saying, I'm really not comfortable when you said or did XYZ. But instead we're being people pleasing, that kind of thing. Um, it's just it's yeah, challenging. The different way of navigating things. Missouri Cowboy says, Dana, some, not all givers attempt to paint the picture of hero saint as a payoff, or to paint over a lack of self-worth, self-love, and self-value. Oh, absolutely. I agree completely. But it's a good way if we're having the mindset of, oh, well, we get upset at a person that doesn't, if our gift doesn't somehow secure our position in a relationship, or we're thinking, well, they owe me. Well, gosh, I gave the county commissioner, I gave him Christmas cookies, and I can't believe they're gonna pass this new tax in effect that's gonna, I don't know, hit us farmers, right? Like, it's specific to us. If we're thinking, well, like a true gift would be, I'm gonna make Christmas cookies because I just love making Christmas cookies, and I just love giving them to people. I just think it's fun. It's the spirit of the holidays, and I just love that. It's where is this gift coming from versus I'm gonna bake these people Christmas cookies, maybe for all of those same reasons, and because I'm gonna try to, uh, kinda keep in the good graces of somebody else. I'm gonna try to control their behavior through my gift giving, then that's a problem. But yeah, if you're giving because you enjoy giving, nothing wrong with that. It's just a kind of questioning, um, our own behavior. Oh, yes. Okay. Jack says, Dana, helpful mom and I have a report on our homework when you're ready. Yes, please do tell. That's a good way to put it, Darlene. She says, yeah, giving should always be without strings. Otherwise, it isn't giving, it's a bribe. Yep, exactly. Okay, let's see here. Let me scroll up. Um, yes. And so Vaughn mentions the different defense mechanisms that we all experience uh, when when stress is present. So we either go into fight mode, flight mode, freeze mode, or fawn mode, and that fawn mode is basically like a friend mode. So it's that ingratiating type behavior. And again, here's the thing too with these different modes is this isn't a conscious thing. So our brain chooses for us. And we have to it takes practice. It takes time and awareness and practice to shift out of our default response mode. And we all tend to have one primary one and then one secondary one. So it's knowing what yours are and then not and then giving yourself compassion, I guess, not beating yourself up about it because you're not choosing how you handle the situation. Your brain is choosing. So, and this can be so crazy making for people because um, other people looking in, they'll say, "Well, what on earth? How come you just sat there? You know, there was this horrific car accident, and this person just stood there or a child was kidnapped, and a person just stood there on the sidewalk and did nothing, and they just watched the whole time. Well, they were in freeze mode." Or people handle tremendous amounts of stress differently, and we all handle it differently at different times. This is you get people that are running back into burning buildings to get their purse or a photo album. um, they're doing things that don't seem rational, and this is why these defense mechanisms aren't rational. They're primitive survival methods. Sam says a coping mechanism I hate is getting angry. I can't control it. Okay. So to go with what you're saying with what Vaughn was saying, so if your default is fight mode. Okay? So that's that anger mode. Knowing that about yourself is huge. That's a really great start to know, okay, when I handle stress. My primary default is I go into fight mode. I get so angry, I can't see straight. I say things that I later regret. It's caused me problems at work or with my relationships or what have you. Um, then knowing that what you can start doing is giving yourself space first and foremost. So if you're feeling this start to bubble up, because what so many of us, myself included, this is I've had this exact situation happen. Um, what was it this week or last week? Recently, if a lot of times trying to change a behavior will try to just change the behavior at the time it's occurring. And that's like a trial by fire kind of way to do things. It's really, really difficult. So if there's certain situations where you feel yourself, but that anger is just bubbling up and you're like, okay, I've got about 5 seconds here before I really start saying stuff. I'm just going to lose it. I'm not going to handle it well. At that point, then being like, okay, I just need to get myself some space. So figuring out, okay, how can I basically just pause this conversation or shut it down completely? Saying, you know what? I need to go. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to call you back. Doing something to buy yourself some time. So you're not trying to use the you're not trying to stay reasonable and rational under tremendous amounts of stress, because when we're under stress and we go into that fight or those different modes, especially fight mode, that logic and critical thinking part of our brain goes offline. So you're trying to be reasonable and rational, but your brain doesn't have that ability at that time. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is to give yourself space to calm down, splash some water on your face, do some deep breathing, maybe call the person back the next day, whatever you might need, and then address whatever issue it might be at that time. Or not. You might realize you're like, God, this is such an like a non-issue. Um, or it's the same issue with this person. Like, I'm just kind of done. Maybe I just need to get some distance from it or whatever. Maybe I'll just let this one slide um, or this person just seems to be looking for an argument and I'm not going to give it to them, kind of a thing. Okay. Renzo, thank you for the live stream donation. Asks, do narcissists target adults with neurodiverse conditions such as ADHD, autism, learning disabilities, executive functioning disorders? It depends on the narcissist. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Yeah, narcissists, abusive people, manipulative people, they're all different. And so they all have different motives and motivations for their own behavior. Some of them will kind of go after uh, people that are maybe easier targets than others, people that do have autism or um, um, some type of special needs, or that are elderly, or that are young and innocent, and um, eh, that they perceive to be more vulnerable. Some of them do go after that. Some of them don't. Uh, some of them don't even necessarily target. They don't ever think of themselves as targeting people. They're just attracted to who they're attracted to. If they have a thing for blondes, they're attracted to blondes. It doesn't matter if that blonde is, uh, I don't know, and has ADD or doesn't, or whatnot. If they're just attracted to that person, they're attracted to him. Where things start to go south is um, when we're talking about a narcissist, or really any um, kind of personality disorder in general. We're talking about behavior that's causing major disruption in a person's life, and by default it's going to cause major disruption in the lives of those around them. So it's very much an imbalanced behavior, and as long as this imbalance is present, it's going to be very difficult to have a balanced relationship with this person. So um so these are the challenges that are present. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, let me scroll down looking for Jack. Okay. Uh Huffle Mom says, oh wait, I missed part of it. So okay, Okay, so we spoke last time. The issue was that Jack was having trouble accepting love, that he was really fighting Huffle Mom on that. And I was trying to, my 2 cents was encouraging Huffle Mom to tell Jack straight out that she loves him as many times as possible. But the other part of that, so Jack, did you do this? The bigger part of the homework was for you to sit with that and try to let that sink in and to not fight Huffle Mom. You don't have to agree with her. You don't even have to say anything, but to sit there and just try to absorb what she's saying. So were you able to do that part of it? Sam says, "Yeah, I take a shower if I'm really angry." That's awesome. So knowing these things. So this is where a lot of this self-awareness really starts coming in, is figuring out, okay, if we all look at our behavior in terms of everything that any of us are currently doing, it's to meet some sort of need or to cope with a need not being met, basically, which in its own way is still to meet a need, right? So if you think about that, your behavior isn't random. It might feel random, but it's not. So then if we can put on like our scientist glasses and get curious about our behavior, that's where things really begin to get interesting. So examining, why are you doing what you're doing? What's working for you? What's not working for you? So then knowing, oh my gosh, when you were getting really angry, how you were going about self-soothing was to go take a shower, although you probably didn't think about it as self-soothing. So if that worked for you to go take a shower, then thinking about, okay, in what other ways have you been handling anger this time that's worked for you? And what ways that you've been handling anger haven't worked for you? And so then the more you can kind of view this as a giant, your life is a giant experiment, like what's working, what's not working, and why, the more you can start trying different things. And it that's how behavior starts to change. Okay, let's see. Sorry, Jack and Huffle, they were given their report about their homework, and then I went off on a tangent. I apologize, you guys. Um, okay. Huffle Mom was saying, okay, Dana's reminding me that I need to sit with what you say and try to absorb your expressions of love, which is not easy for me as an INFP, which we typically don't absorb. Typically, we reflect back the emotion that seems to match the emotion expressed to them. This is very hard when that function has been hijacked by toxic programming. And that's a great follow up question to that Huffle Mom. She says, "So, Jack, what can we do that will help?" Yes. Okay, let me scroll up here. Let's see. Huffle Mom is talking to Candy and Bonnie and says, my mother told me that as a mother and a wife, I have no right to get depressed, as if it's something I can control. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The thing is, we all have emotions, right? We all feel the way that we feel. They're not, emotions um, aren't ever invalid. Our emotions can catch us off balance, they can surprise us, they can upset us. We can have a whole other response that's kicked off by the different emotions we feel, but it helps to just acknowledge them and then to explore, okay, why am I feeling this way? What's going on? If I'm feeling depressed, if this is a new thing for me, what has changed? Or if it's not a new thing for me, is there something that's continuing to occur? Like, what's going on? Our emotions aren't facts, but they are information. And it's information that's designed, it's our limbic system. It's a different part of our brain that's trying to communicate to us in really the only way that it can. So it's important that we see that we don't try to just disregard this, but to see it as, oh wow, this is a different part of my brain trying to communicate to me. Um, Let me explore this and see what's there. Jess made the follow-up comment, about narcissists to Renzo and saying, yeah, narcissists are attracted to selfless people. I would expand on that a little bit. Yeah, selfless, but also boundaryless. So if you've got a person who is all about them, they have their own agenda, right? And they're looking for somebody who is going to make they're the sun and they're looking for somebody to revolve around them, right? So that tends to be what a lot of very self-absorbed people seek out. They're not looking for a team, they're not looking for a partnership. They're looking for somebody who will build their life around them. That you will do and say and think and feel everything that they want you to, that it needs to be in complete agreement with them, or else they don't understand. Like they get upset. They're not okay with you having independent wants, thoughts, feelings, any of that. It's all about them all of the time. And um so if I think so many of us kind of by nature, maybe by nature and nurture, tend to be kind of more of like the natural kind of caregivers. Um, I don't know, struggle. We would like to be there for other people. And so our big challenge in all of this is to learn how how much of that within our own personality is truly our own and how much of it is kind of a defense mechanism that's built up over time that we learn to navigate our environment by being nice kind of a thing, or uh and we or set learning to set boundaries and realize that setting boundaries and saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't. A lot of people have the idea that you know relationships, like true love, doesn't have boundaries, or that boundaries are a bad thing because they keep people out, and that none of that is accurate. For a healthy relationship to have a chance of existing, it's going to require healthy boundaries on for both people involved. Chris is talking about anger and says, I've tried to remain calm at all times, However, it's hard when someone is throwing flames. Yeah. And in those situations, when someone is throwing flames or like actively trying to provoke you, it's helpful to realize, hey, this person is actively trying to provoke me. They're throwing flames. So the only thing that I can do at this time is to get some distance. There's no point in trying to reason with them to work on your communication at that point. Like they're looking to be hateful or hurtful. And then it's time to just take a break and to get some distance. Um, Sam, okay, so Sam was saying with his anger, he says, I never get angry. I run away. Okay, and then it sounds like with when you do experience anger, then you you leave the situation and you go take a shower, you go process it in other ways. Learning to get comfortable, learning how to harness anger and to get the information out of that emotion that it's anger is there, it has a message for us just like all of our other emotions. And the main message of anger is the need to be self-protective, basically. So we need to take some sort of self-protective action. Anger is one of those emotions that uh, people tend to either be kind of numbed out to or consumed by. There's not a lot of middle ground from what I've noticed with people. They either have an anger issue, they lash out, it's like they turn on a fire hose, and they say things they don't mean, they do things they don't, their anger causes them a lot of problems in their life. Or if they're very out of tune with their anger and they're numbed out, then they avoid conflict, they avoid confrontation, even minor conflict or confrontation. They tend to say yes when they mean no. They tend to fall into a lot of people-pleasing behavior because 'cause they're not comfortable with any conflict or confrontation, and so it takes an awful lot of kind of their boundaries being pushed or outright violated. That anger has to build up within them to the point where it boils over for them to actually, uh, say something. But at that point, it's boiled over and it tends to come out as really aggressive behavior. More often than not, it'll come out, oh, in a variety of, um, smaller, seemingly unrelated, more passive, what we call passive aggressive ways. So, I don't know, you're upset with your, um yeah, I don't know, you're upset with your boss, because your boss criticizes you on a project that you've spent all this time on. And so as revenge, you bring tuna casserole and w warm it up in the microwave, or you intentionally burn popcorn in the microwave thinking, "Ha ha, I'll show them." Or you take office supplies home. Stuff like that where you're doing these little things to kinda settle the score. So it's it just takes a lot of takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and it is uncomfortable, uh, learning how to be assertive and handle handle that anger and realize that it's not that it doesn't come out of nowhere, that it's generally present when there's been some sort of boundary violation. um, so okay, let's see, let me Sam says, "Oh, I'm not passive aggressive, lol." Yeah, and some people aren't. Some people truly are just passive. But when that anger starts building up, It Missouri Cowboy says, "Ew, warmed over tuna, ew." Yes, I think we can all relate to, that one coworker that insists on bringing, egg salad or tuna salad or whatever to the office, and you just think, "Really? Really, why? Why do you hate us?" Ah, but some people truly are just passive, and that passive aggressiveness can come out in a wide variety of ways. I would say behavior that's somewhere between passive and passive aggressive that a lot of people engage in, myself included, and I try to watch it more often, is if you find yourself venting to other people, regardless of who it is, your significant other, your a close friend, family, your therapist. um, "Oh, I can't believe so and so did this, and I'm just so upset." And what we're really doing is we're redirecting this anger in a safe way. So we're discharging all of that anger. We're getting it out. We're asserting our boundaries, but not at the person that needs to hear this. So we're still kind of psychologically getting all of the relief of um, making this, imbalance known, but we're not telling the person that needs to be told. So that imbalance isn't truly corrected, but it sure makes us feel better. And this can be one of the dangers and the challenges with therapy is so many people will get into therapy or even into support groups, and they think that by venting, they confuse venting with um, kind of productivity because it makes them feel better, but it's not being productive. It's activity. It's not productivity. So, and the downside to venting is if a person needs that steam, they need that lid on their pot in order for them that they to have their discomfort grow to such a level that they actually are motivated to take action. If that the steam is being let out, which is what venting is, if that steam is being let out, then they never take action because they're experiencing the relief of all of their frustration and anger. So it's worth noticing, what are you um, what are you saying to other people and why? All of this just goes back to getting curious. Why are you doing what you're doing? And we all see our own behavior uh, in waves too. So you might have some realizations of, oh my gosh, I never thought of that's exactly what I'm doing. But I never thought of it that way. I just didn't think of it that way. We have this one aha moment, and then it'll lead to another one, which will lead to another one, which will lead to another one. I mean, I guess it's a good thing that we don't have all of these aha moments all at once, or we wouldn't be able to get out of bed. It'd be too overwhelming. So let's see. Alicia, I think that's how you pronounced your name. Alicia says, "Do you guys have a hard time staying focused and productive at work? It has been several months now, and there are still days where I just sit there, zoning out and feeling paralyzed. I'm still having more bad days than good." And are you talking in terms of with a relationship ending? Okay, let's see here. Okay, she says, "Yes, you are correct in the pronunciation." Okay, good deal. Alicia, are you talking about just in terms of uh, the the kind of shock and the hurt and everything with this relationship ending. She says, "I guess I'm talking in terms of me feeling awful about myself." Because it might be a couple different things going on. So, we're at a very strange time in society with the virus. So a lot of people are really struggling with um, focusing and um, staying motivated and all of this. If you're still working the same schedule, that's good. At least there's some of that routine there. But for a lot of people, so just kind of FYI, if anybody's in this boat, for a lot of people that are really struggling with, maybe they're not working and they're at home and they have no routine, they have no schedule. They have days where they feel motivated or they feel pretty good about things, and then they have days they can hardly get out of bed. Lot of I can't even tell you how many people I've heard this from. So, that's a real challenge right now, uh, just in and of itself. And just the general level of uncertainty with the, economy and housing and money and all of this stuff, that's a lot. That's enough. Like, that's enough for for a person to try to handle. On top of, uh, a relationship ending and, um, everything that can go along with that. So, yeah, that, um, I guess I would be curious to kind of explore when you say feeling awful about yourself, what do you mean by that? And where, I guess, can you just elaborate a little bit more on that? Are you feeling awful about the way the relationship ended? Did your ex say certain things? Are you feeling that um, um, is there any feelings of that you if you could have done something different? Uh, and she says, "I just feel so emotionally exhausted, as though journaling and introspection might just break me." Okay, you bring up a really valid point, and it's one that I try to remember, but I feel like I struggle to remember because everybody here in in this chat is at different stages of um, of understanding, of healing, of awareness of all of this. If you are at a place where your anxiety is so high and you're just you're at wit's end, this is not the time to take on more um, journaling and introspection. Right now is the time to just simply breathe. That's it. That's all you have to do. You triple up on your self care. Now is your time to be extra good to yourself. All of the answers and the introspection and everything else we've been talking about, that'll come in time. We don't need to have it all figured out today. The biggest thing that you can do right now in your healing is to just be extra extra good to yourself. So, giving yourself grace and compassion. I like to look at it as it's when you go through a really transitional, and that's probably putting it lightly, really tough period in your life, whatever it might be. There's death, there's divorce, there's the ending of a relationship in some way, shape, or form. It's like, think about how you treat yourself or how you hopefully treat yourself when you have the flu, when you have the physical flu. You allow yourself to cuddle up in a blanket and hopefully, and to kind of take some time off and to watch a movie or to just kind of mope around the house and to not wear makeup, and you're wearing your most comfortable clothes, and you're not cooking, you're just eating soup, and you're like, you're just trying to get through every day, you're trying to be as good to yourself as you possibly can. There's no expectations on you to, um, to be how you normally are when you're feeling 100%. When we're going through these types of transitional times, it's like having the emotional flu. You're going through a lot and it's okay. And I would strongly encourage you to take that time and to be extra good to yourself. So all of this other work that we're talking about with, this is not the time to be revisiting, to be going through what is my relationship with my parents and, dissecting other heavy things. It's or focusing on other heavy things or trying to do homework with moving forward. That's going to feel very, very overwhelming and it's not going to be helpful. So step one is just being extra, extra good to yourself, tripling up on your self care, allowing yourself, taking time to just breathe and catch your breath and get adjusted to this new chapter in your life. That's all you need to be doing right now. Okay, let's see. Let me scroll up. Kevin asks, he says, is it normal to lash out or push away a close friend when they are moving away? It can be. We all handle stress and pain and feelings of rejection or abandonment differently. And even though it might be, um, something where you're like, gosh, but I'm an adult and this person's an adult and they're a close friend and I don't get why I'm feeling this way. It can be the feeling of subconsciously you trying to disconnect from them. It's easier for us to, um, it's always easier for anybody when things end on their terms, right? So it's easier for us to move on emotionally if we quit a job versus us getting fired. It's easier for us to move on when we break up with somebody versus getting broken up with. It's easier when uh, kind of when we're more in charge of how things go. And with friendships, even though it's not ending, it's just this person's moving away, it can be all those feelings of, I don't know how to handle this. I'm really going to miss this person so much. And I'm angry or I'm hurt. Like, I'm angry that they're moving. I know that they have to move. I know, like you get all that at a logical level, but it's like, man, I really like this person and I'm just going to be sad. There's a saying out there that I think there's a lot of truth to it. It says anger is the bodyguard of hurt. And especially in situations like this where there's seemingly no reason for pushing this person away or not returning phone calls or wanting to keep distance or just your own behaviors catching you off guard, it can be that it's a way to try to protect yourself from being hurt. Like, okay, well, this person's gonna, I know that they're gonna literally physically distance themselves from me. So I'm gonna try to emotionally distance myself from them ahead of time so it won't hurt as much. But it, it's a subconscious thing. But it's good that you realize that. So hopefully maybe you and your friend um, can talk about it and kind of figure out, okay, well, what does this mean now that your friend's moving away? You know, doesn't mean that you guys have to stop being friends. It just means that your friendship is gonna be a little different. Let's see here. Let me scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. People, Darlene's talking about healing activities and says another healing move for her was a name change. Her married and maiden names were both associated with abuse. So when I got divorced, I legally changed my name to my mother's maiden name. Yeah. Yep. I- a name change is a very powerful thing. I went through something similar, kind of for some different reasons, but it's anything I think we can do to kind of signify stepping into that next chapter in our life on like a more kind of mild end, I guess. It can be rearranging your furniture or ooh, sorry, always I need to change that tone. That just scares me every single time it goes off. Uh, doing these little things to kind of change up your environment, painting a room, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It does. I mean, any little thing you can do to change things. You could even do things where you swap, I don't know, swap your bedspread with your best friend or swap towels. If you really, if you know, if money is tight and you're like, I wish I had money to get some new things to make this more my space. Swap with somebody else. And that can really help. Getting a new set of sheets for your bed. Um, you guys, I probably heard me talk about this, but I went through, uh, well, I had this aha moment. This was years ago after my relationship with Jack, and I was in the shower and I was just I was really down. And I was like, man, why, like, basically, why am I so unlovable? What is wrong with me that I keep getting tangled up with these people, like friendships and men that really just don't treat me very well? And, um, and I just was really sad. And I was just having a hard time with it. And I was telling myself, "Oh my gosh, but you know what? There's lots about me that is lovable. Damn it." I was really getting mad about it. Anyway, so I get out of the shower and I put the towel around me. It was kind of like giving myself a hug. And I had the idea of I'm going to designate a color to remind myself that even if nobody that was significant in my life at that time was really seeing my worth or my value, that I still saw it, that I still loved me. And so I decided, okay, that color is going to be red. And I'm going to start, getting red items. And that'll just be my subconscious reminder to myself that I, at the end of the day, I'm still in my corner. I still love me. And so that's when I got this red mug that I've had forever. And I bought some red towels and it was so cool because I had, um, you know, as other people have come into my life and they know my story of the significance of the color red, they'll give me little red things, and it's just really cool. It's just really cool. So that can be a way for you to do it too, is to think about a color, um, whatever color that might be for you. That you're like, "Yeah, this is my signal to myself that I am lovable and that I matter and that I at least see that." If nobody else does right now, I at least see that and I honor that. So, little things like this can make a really huge difference. Cecilia says she needs to log off tonight to do some self-care, and she says, "Thanks for everything. See you guys next time." Well, good night. And yes, we will see you next week. Oh, I meant to tell you next week we are going to do book club. And I ended up switching the book late in the game. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I decided with the coronavirus in full swing, a book that would be, I think, more appropriate and could lead to some good discussion. Is the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So we'll be reading that book. If you this is a book that's been around for a long time. It's fantastic. He is a Holocaust survivor and a psychiatrist. So um, it just a very interesting story about loss and grief and um, kind of the power of making meaning, I guess. So it's not so much what happens to us, it's the meaning that we decide to make from it is really kind of at the core of the book. So wonderful book. A lot of libraries, you can get it on Amazon, ebook or what have you, but a lot of there probably is probably even on YouTube if you look for it. But a lot of libraries uh, offer ebooks and they offer audiobooks through an app. So that might be worth looking into as well. So anyways, book club will be next Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Devora says, "Oh, I read that book 35 years ago. Yeah, it changed my life." Yeah, it is. It's a great book. Very powerful story, and you realize, my goodness, if anybody um, has gone through it and has earned the place to be able to talk about, to be able to say that it's not what we go through, it's the meaning we assign to it. I really felt that, yeah, that's about as powerful as a story as you can get. Losing your family and um, everything and living in constant fear. Like you lose everything and decide who you're going to be at that point forward. Very powerful. So, oh, well, good. Bluebird says, I felt a lot of warmth listening to you. Thank you. Oh, well, I am so glad. I'm glad to have you here. Truth Seeker says, oh, I love a warm, happy orange color. Yes, that is a great color. And somebody else had mentioned that their color would have been like I guess, somewhere in the teal turquoise family. Yes, that's a beautiful color as well. Let's see here. Let me. Mm, Sarah says, does anyone else ever notice how every time you go to leave, the narcissist draws you back by telling you that they're, wait, oh, every time that you go to leave, the narcissist draws you back by telling you that you're leaving them for someone else, when really I'm just leaving for myself. Yeah, I would say that kind of stuff. Uh, if they really mean it, it's baiting you into baiting you into an argument. And that's their own if it's sincere, if they sincerely think that, then and it's not true. If it's really not true, then that's coming from their own insecurities. But a lot of times they'll pick fights. People I really feel like this is an underrated reason people tend to stay in abusive relationships is the crazy making factor of when somebody's arguing with you and it's difficult for anybody to disengage from uh, we want to stand there and like be validated, have our reality be validated. And so someone's sitting there telling you, "Oh no, you're cheating on me. You hurt me. You did this." And it's so angering because it's like, "What are you talking about? Like you did all those things to me. What are you talking about?" And it makes you want to stand there and hold your ground until you can get them to see things your way. But the reality is either it's all a game to them and they're not they don't want to see things your way. They just want to fight. Or they, you know, they're working out of their own unresolved stuff and they're never going to believe you anyhow. So, yeah, but that kind of stuff is absolutely crazy making. Jennifer, hi Jennifer, says she says, "Oh, I just like too many colors to pick just one. I can never make decisions." That's that's so cute. I know. It is hard. She says, "But I really like eggplant purple, even though my signature color was always blue. when I was a kid. That's funny. Did you ever see the movie Steel Magnolias? I love that movie. The When Julia Roberts' character was talking about her wedding colors, like her signature colors, like my colors and she's are blush and bashful. And I think it was who was it? Olympia Dukakis was the other woman who was saying, "No, your colors are pink and pink." Ah, such a cute movie. Cute and sad, just wonderful, wonderful movie. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry, Jack was asking, what is the name of the book for a book club? Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is the book that we're gonna be discussing next Thursday at 6:30 PM Eastern Standard Time. And I'm still working on getting my book club notes up and the book club list. Nothing is ever easy. I just need to put up a page on the website to do it, but it just that oh, yeah, yeah, that project, what started off as something simple has grown into this project. Now we're thinking too many steps out with how we're gonna, put up all these notes and do all this stuff, but I just need to get the the basics up and then we'll fine tune it as we go. So I apologize for not getting that up. Sam says, "I hope I don't miss it. It sounds very interesting." Yeah, it is. Not only is his story interesting, but seeing it within the context of uh, kind of what came out of that in a mental health kind of way. So, kind of really the whole um, kind of theory of it really helped to think that the concept of existentialism, finding meaning in things, finding meaning, especially in suffering or meaning in pain, that played a big part. So before, and we'll get into this next Thursday, but before that, mental health wise, behavior, it was behavior and emotions and all of that was really thought to be more of kind of a nature or nurture thing. So there wasn't this ability for us to have free will or to be able to impact these things that happen, like things that happen to us were either nature or nurture. It was very much like um, kind of either biological or behavioral. And the whole this so this making this shift, jumping to it doesn't have to be that way. Like there's that third option of we can decide what something means to us. And that's where I just think that's incredibly powerful. Susanna says, "Oh, it's my favorite drama, Steel Magnolias." Yes, that just was such a great movie. Okay, so on that note, oh, Jennifer says, "Oh, I always cry when watching that movie." Oh God, girl, me too. It's so good. It's it just so well cast, so cute. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a sad movie, but Daryl Hannah is in it, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts, Sally Fields. It just a really great cast. Okay, let's see. So okay, so we are at that was a good movie too. Oh gosh, you guys are asking these great questions and we've got to go. Divorce said I liked Fried Green Tomatoes better. That was a cute movie too. Changing My Mind says I recently watched A Beautiful Mind. That is a good movie. sad, but yeah, very, very good. And Jennifer asks, can EMDR cure chemical imbalances like OCD or bipolar, or is it only for trauma? I'm diagnosed with OCD and my mom is diagnosed with bipolar, so I was just curious. Um, no, EMDR is not used as a treatment for chemical imbalances. This is not as simple of an answer as I was thinking it was going to be until I started saying it out loud. It's it's not normally designed to treat chemical imbalances. However, that's not to say that it can't help with some of the underlying, generally with OCD and bipolar, um, stress and trauma are play a part in that. So EMDR can help with that aspect of it. Um, OCD, I mean, by generally, there's that psychiatric component to both of those. OCD, if I'm not mistaken, a real common class of drugs that are used to treat that is SSRIs are used for OCD, and then bipolar. There's, it depends if it's bipolar one or bipolar two, but normally there's, um, can be managed pretty well with prescription medication. But therapy is in different modes of therapy can also be really helpful. So sometimes it's not just uh, an either. Is this helpful or is this helpful? It's more of it can be a both. So yeah, that's hard. Jennifer saying her mom is bipolar one. Yeah, I I just would encourage her to talk to her doctor about that. Uh, Generally, bipolar one, it can be pretty well managed with medication and tends to need medication. Bipolar two medication definitely helps, but there's not the the degree of extremes with bipolar one. But yeah, that would be a conversation um, with her doctor for sure to see kind of what some options are. Cognitive behavioral therapy can all that can also be incredibly helpful for most. Uh, I don't know. It can be very helpful with different mental health challenges out there. So because it focus, the whole kind of concept behind cognitive behavioral therapy, it's how your thoughts impact your feelings, impact your actions, and not necessarily in that order. It's how each one of those affects the other two. And so it can it, I don't know, it's great. It can really help anybody. I just love it. Okay, so with that said, let's take some time. We'll wind down, settle in, and do our uh, kind of guided meditation for the evening. So take some time to find a spot that is comfortable, whether you are sitting down or laying down. Allowing yourself to settle into this moment. Allowing your body to relax. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feeling the weight of your body as you begin to relax. And with each breath in, allowing your chest to easily and effortlessly rise and fall. Breathing in with the calm, breathing out with any stress or anxiety. Breathing in with the calm and out with the stress. Being fully present in this moment. Releasing any anger, stress, hostility you might have about the past. Releasing any worry, anxiety, fears you might have about the future. Realizing that there is so much that is good and right with this moment. And there is oh so much that is good and right with you. At a minimum, the fact that you're even listening to this shows that you're interested in emotional health, that you're interested in personal growth. That's huge. That you're interested in self care because you're here, you're listening to this. Or if you listen to other videos like this, that you're doing these things to support yourself. That's wonderful. That you're supporting other people while you're here, which is a beautiful thing. That you're capable of making change in your life. There are just so many things that are good and right about you. And continuing to breathe. And I hope you guys can take some time at a minimum tonight, but ideally over the next week, and really think about what are some of your strengths? What are some of your good qualities? And telling yourself that, reminding yourself of these things, looking into the mirror and acknowledging these things that are good and right with you. It's important. It's important that you know these things. There is a lot about you that is lovable. When you're ready, go ahead and come on back and open your eyes. Mm. So, thank you guys so much for being here. And I will see you, let's see, next Tuesday over on Angie's channel, Angie Atkinson, and then Wednesday back here on my channel, and then Thursday for book club. So I'll see you guys a bunch next week. So you take care. And as always, just lots of love to you guys. You are not alone. You are not crazy. And you really can move forward and heal from this. So take care and just lots of light and love to you guys. Okay. Good night.